Hey guys, I wanted to make this video because I saw something in the Styrian Grand Prix just today that perfectly illustrated the point I was making in a couple comments I made online on YouTube about the incident between Hamilton and Albon. And literally every video that was ever made about that incident purely spoke about Hamilton's responsibility in that incident, in him defending his place. And I can understand that because it was all about basically the penalty, whether he deserved it or not. But the one thing I was saying was that Albon, the person pulling off the move, has a responsibility to avoid contact himself. To some people that might be really controversial, but the fact is this: reality doesn't care whose fault it is. At the end of the day, Hamilton came home with points after his penalty, and Albon, even if he finished the race, at best would have come home with 1 point. Now, Albon had two things he could have done to avoid contact. The first thing he could have done was actually use the curb on the outside of the turn. He had a lot of space available to him. If you look from Hamilton's onboard, you see that just the corner of Albon's tire and Hamilton's tire made contact. That's why Albon got spat out, because just the very edges of their tires made contact. So that was one thing. If you look at there's a really good view of it from the outside, and you can see how Albon's outside rear tire is barely touching the white line. He's really not using the space available to him. And the other thing too is that Albon could have paid attention all the way through of what Hamilton's car was doing. Albon passed Hamilton through the turn. He entered the turn behind Hamilton, and as he was passing him, he had a very good idea of the path that Hamilton's car was taking, and he ignored that fact. So my second point was this: he knew that Hamilton's front wheel was between his two wheels. Their wheels were essentially interlocked in a way. And so what he could have done was just maintain speed. He could have matched Hamilton's speed until they were out of the turn and they were both fully on track, and then, well, obviously by that point they both would have been at full throttle, but Albon would have had the inside line to the next left-hander and would have easily passed Hamilton. So two things he easily could have done to protect himself, which is pay attention to Hamilton and match speed to avoid contact, or he could have just got on the throttle as early as he wanted to by using the curb. Get out there, use the space you have, give yourself a bit of room, and then get on the gas and just and plow by Hamilton like you were planning to do, you know? So, but by his own admission, Albon ignored reality. What he said was that at that point, he was already looking down the road at Bottas. Well, that's his mistake. As long as the guy's beside you, you're not done, and you can't be looking down the road. You need to be paying attention to the guy beside you. So I think this weekend it shows. There's a couple passes where it really shows that I think he learned his lesson, because he really now is using the outside curb on turn 4. And this goes to my same, and I made the comparison between Albon's incident and Verstappen's incident with Ocon in 2018 in the Brazilian Grand Prix, with Ocon trying to unlap himself and Verstappen in the lead. Ocon was fighting way too aggressively to unlap himself from the leader. But at the same time, Verstappen completely ignored how aggressive Ocon was being and turned into turn 2 as if Ocon didn't exist. And again, this is the same principle, which is it doesn't matter who's right and who's wrong. In that instant, you have to pay attention to reality. Where is the guy beside you? Do what you can to protect yourself. Stop acting entitled. Reality does not pay attention to who's entitled to that place. You have to yield. Protect yourself. Do everything you can to avoid contact. And if the guy still plows into you, then at least none of it was ever your fault. Then you did everything you could. So anyway, making my point about Albon's incident is what we see here. On lap 46 of this weekend's Grand Prix, we see this. Sergio Perez on the right, Lance Stroll on the left. Perez is passing Stroll on lap 46 on the outside of turn 4. And guess where Perez is? Way out on the curbs, giving him as much space as possible. And this perfectly illustrates my point, what Albon should have been doing. Albon was not paying attention to Hamilton's path and assumed he was past Hamilton. And of course, we all know what happens when you assume. So anyway, if you notice where Stroll's car is, it's basically just as far out on the track as Hamilton's car was. It's pretty close to that line. But Perez is going way out there, doing everything he can to avoid contact. And he did. And if you watch that move all the way through, he does exactly what I was saying. Perez stayed right beside Stroll and had the inside advantage into the next turn. And guess what? He passed him on the inside of the left-hander. Job done. You know, just do a replay, and it's exactly what Albon could have done but neglected to do. So hopefully maybe somebody can do a proper video of this, a proper analysis. Chamber F1, I'm looking at you. You can do a pretty good comparison between Perez's pass on Stroll and Albon's pass on Hamilton, and how Perez is really showing how it's done around this track. So yeah, anyway, that's all I wanted to say. Hopefully somebody does a proper video about this. It was so frustrating to me to have everybody talking about Hamilton, and nobody made, I think barely anybody made any mention of Albon's responsibility in that whole incident. It was like, guys, like, it's so obvious. But anyway. Alright, well, I'll see you guys next time. Just a short, quick video. Bye.